Hi, thanks for coming to my talk. I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal experience working with various math outreach programs. So first, let me give you a brief overview of some of the math outreach programs that I've done, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail about how they went and what I learned from them. Okay, so some of the things that I've worked with I've worked with the European Girls Math Olympiad, and for that I've coached the U.S. team for the European Girls Math Olympiad various times. This is an Olympiad that was designed to get more girls into the competition math community. I've also run the pre-mop. It's a program for girls at Math Olympiad program, just mostly to help them get to know each other and sort of have a little bit of an idea of how everything works. I've also done some work with the Puerto Rican Math Olympiad community, largely coordinating contests when they were hosted by Puerto Rico. And also I've worked with their training program where we trained the Puerto Rican Math Olympiad teams for various international math contests. And another thing I've done is I've worked with this program called BEAM, Bridge to Enter Advanced Mathematics, which many of you might have heard of. And for them, I taught a programming class for 7th and 8th graders on Saturdays over the course of a semester. And BEAM is really a great program. It's a program to sort of try to help students from underserved communities who are really passionate about learning mathematics and other STEM fields. So one of the programs that I've worked with is the European Girls Math Olympiad. So the European Girls Math Olympiad was sort of started to try to get more girls into competition math. So it's sort of based on this math Olympiad called the International Math Olympiad, which is an annual high school math contest to which each country that participates sends a 6-person team. In the past, these math contests were often quite gender skewed. So, for example, the U.S. teams so far have had only 3 girls, despite sending 6 students per year. And so, to try to combat this kind of this gendered skewedness, some people started this math Olympiad called the China Girls Math Olympiad. This was started by various parts of the Chinese Math Olympiad community, and it sort of is mostly like a Chinese competition. So like various Chinese provinces send teams, and some larger high schools also send teams. And there are also a few international teams. So the U.S. used to send 2 teams to this competition every year. And outside of China, there was initially a lot of skepticism about this due to the perception that it's kind of sexist to have a competition sort of just for girls. And this is still an issue that, gets debated. But one thing that sort of is definitely true is that these Olympiads have been very successful in bringing more girls into like math competitions, which is sort of a way to get more high school girls interested in math. And so like the Europeans started a version of this called the European Girls Math Olympiad, which is sort of more structured like the International Math Olympiad, in the sense that every country that participates sends a team. In this case, it's a team of 4 students. And the US has been participating in the European Girls Math Olympiad since it started in 2012. And I've had the opportunity to coach these teams. And this has been sort of, I think, the girls really get a lot out of this because it's a way for them to meet other girls who are really interested in math, and sort of in a way that's sort of exciting and fun for the girls. They have like some competition with each other, but also like it's largely about going to meet other girls from other countries who are also very passionate about mathematics. So the US team to the Girls Math Olympiads are trained at the Math Olympiad program, or MOP, which is also where where we train the U.S. teams to various international math Olympiads. And in past years, some of the girls at MOP said that they felt kind of isolated, and it's sort of hard to get into it because they felt like there were some sort of barriers. It was hard to get to know people. And some of the girls have said that like initially you feel great kind of being a girl in an activity that's mostly like mostly done by boys because you feel like all eyes are on you and the parents are talking about how amazing it is to have a girl who's interested in competition math. But later on, like as you get more into it, you start to realize that it's actually kind of isolating, and they felt that sometimes like the sort of boys were not like would like celebrate each other's victories but wouldn't do the same for the girls. And so one way that the MAA sort of came up with to try to get the girls sort of more socially acclimated at the Math Olympiad program is this program, this pre-MOP program. So for a few days before Math Olympiad program, we sort of introduce the girls to each other and have a few classes and activities that are kind of similar to MOP classes, but sort of just with the girls. And it's like a little bit to get them academically acclimated to like sort of what's about to happen. But mostly it's just to get them like a little bit of a social circle built in so that they wouldn't feel as lonely. So a lot of the girls found this really helpful. So one of them even called it a godsend, and some people have said it was like a step in the right direction. Because like one thing is just that with this built-in social circle, it's also easier for them to sort of make other friends at MOP, because it's like these girls who had been to MOP before can help guide them on navigating sort of various like social events and activities, and so like, and also various problems that can kind of come into this. So like, for example, one thing that a lot of the girls struggle with is sort of how to navigate various conversations with boys. Like, for example, one thing that happens with the Math Olympiad program is because we're training the girls' Math Olympiad teams there, like sort of to get into this program, the students take this exam called the USA Math Olympiad, or the USA Junior Math Olympiad. You could get in with either version. But sometimes like we would have to necessarily have the cutoffs for the girls to get in to Math Olympiad program be a little bit lower, just to sort of actually be able to sort of train these girls teams. But somehow like everybody kind of knows this, and so like sometimes like the boys feel like the girls are like stealing spots from the boys, and these are like difficult conversations that even today I don't really quite know like the right ways to navigate. And so sometimes it's like it's helpful for these girls to have support from each other when it comes to like navigating some of the more difficult questions. But one other thing I wanted to say about this pre-MOP program was that I found that like, it was started by one of my friends, Jenny Iglesias, who was also a girl at MOP, and sort of at some point when she was, in high school, and had also worked with various girls' Math Olympiad teams alongside me. And we sort of, she started this program because like she felt like it was sort of a lot of these girls were isolated. But one thing that we found is that the MAA really was very supportive with this. So like we got a lot of support from the MAA in terms of running this program, and it seems like this organization was quite eager to support various math outreach programs. So that's maybe something that might be good to know. Okay, so another sort of contest-related outreach activity that I've worked with is I've worked with the Puerto Rican Math Olympiad community. This is something that's quite close to my heart because I got my start in mathematics through like Puerto Rican math contests. And it's like really an exciting way to get to know other kids with similar interests. So for like Puerto Rican Math Olympiads, I've done some coordinating of Math Olympiads, like the Central American Math Olympiad and the Ibero-American Math Olympiad when they were hosted by Puerto Rico. So like the Central American Math Olympiad was once held in Jamaica with Puerto Rico as a co-host, and the Ibero-American Math Olympiad was held in Puerto Rico. And sort of one of the things I've done is I've coordinated these contests, and I've also done some sort of training of Puerto Rican teams, and I found that like Puerto Rico, sort of like in terms of like the math community, it's really come a long way since the time that I was a student, and like a lot of this is through various like fairly extensive training programs where the kids can get to know each other over the school year and like get like these and learn a lot of advanced mathematics with other Puerto Rican kids. And so, for example, this past summer, I ran the training program for the Puerto Rican Math Olympiad teams, and it was really wonderful getting to know these kids who were very passionate about mathematics, and a lot of them had sort of known each other from having worked with other kids, and you really like they can really learn a lot of interesting mathematics this way. So changing gears a little bit, another outreach activity that I really enjoyed working with is called Bridge to Enter Advanced Mathematics. So it's a program for students from underserved communities. So the students at this program are primarily, they're chosen from schools where the majority of students are in the free lunch program, but it's like also a quite selective program. And so like the kids that we get are really quite keen about learning mathematics. So I specifically worked with the Los Angeles branch of Beam, and for that I taught an introductory programming class on Saturdays. I just heard that they were looking for instructors, so I volunteered to teach a programming class. I taught some basic Python and sort of general getting to know computers and algorithmic thinking, and it was really, really fun. I really enjoyed getting to know the students. And like what would happen was like over the course of the semester, I would have lunch with the kids before class, and where I would like sort of talk to them and get to know what they were doing like in school and how they spent their time. And then like I would teach, for an hour and a half, and we would basically like we would go over some like concepts of like, computer science and also how to program some like fun sort of games and things in Python. And I found that the kids were really keen and creative and full of energy. And so it was like they were eager to learn in a way that was quite inspirational to me. So it definitely, like, if you're sort of interested in doing some outreach activities, I would strongly recommend Beam. It's like a really fun way to do some outreach. So I guess those are the programs that I've worked with, and thanks for listening.